So I've talked about tea and making tea and my tea plants at various points in various videos, but I realized I've never talked a bit more extensively about tea, and I've never shown my collection. So here I have my tea cabinet, and I've been told this looks very nice. I am happy with it. So here I have jars of my loose leaf teas, and I do have some favorites. I'll go through those. The first thing I should note is, yes, I know that strictly speaking, it's better to store teas in tins where they won't get any light exposure, but I'm not super worried about it, because at least for my favorites, I go through them pretty fast, so the light exposure is not going to affect the flavor extensively. A lot of these I've had for a while, like you might see here. Teavana has not existed for a while, but I have some of their holiday blends. Have had some of them for a while. And then, so my favorites right now are, so I was exposed to Dragon Whale for the first time when on a visit to one of the Teavana storefronts before they shut down, and I was definitely hooked. And they probably loaded up their sample teapots with quite a lot of leaves, so the flavor really shone through. This Dragon Well is not as quite a high quality as what I was able to get from Teavana when they were in business, and I haven't been able to find another good one since then. They had a lot of quality teas, but they were expensive. I did spend like over $200 on tea a few times at Teavana. One of my other favorites is chai, and I will acknowledge that it's not the same. I don't brew it the same as like a masala chai with milk that you might traditionally have from India. I tend to like it just with the tea. I don't usually add anything to it. I also really like Assam, just plain. I don't really add anything to it. From those descriptions, you may have noticed I tend to like being able to taste the leaves. So that kind of brings me back to the quality of this Dragon Well is not super great because the taste of the leaves is kind of lost. I need to find a really good Dragon Well. I think most people like oolong too. Oolong's definitely a favorite of mine. I don't have it as often, but it's definitely a favorite. And again, this one I wouldn't say is a super quality oolong. There's so many good oolongs out there. And then I am not a big English breakfast drinker, but I do have a good number of English breakfasts. I have an appreciation for English breakfast teas, but they are not necessarily one of my favorites. Kind of adjacent to that, one of my favorites is Earl Grey. I very much enjoy Earl Grey. I don't add sugar or milk or honey or anything to it. I like to taste the leaves, and I like to get that citrus, that bergamot hitting me. This one, I enjoy this one. And then Harney and Sons has another Earl Grey. If I remember correctly, Imperial is like the best, highest quality flavor, and maybe then this is like the step down. I could be wrong. I don't know. This was one that a friend brought me from her trip to Ireland, and I do like to collect the tins and the containers too. That's a fine enjoyment from getting all the different containers and setting them up. And then I have a small collection of teaware. And then down here we have some very pretty teapots. And so I am an easy person to get gifts for. I will be so happy with just a box of tea because I love receiving tea as a gift. When we visit someplace new, I like to get tea from there. So there's a nursery nearby. It's very small, kind of hole in the wall, but they also sell a bunch of different herbs and teas. So every time we visit, I like to get a new tea that I haven't experienced before, because I do have my favorites, but I like to experience new types of tea. So I have all sorts of different teas from that nursery. The place is called Diane's Herbs in Fallbrook. It's not listed on a map very well. And then I have just overstock of different teas that I haven't gotten good storage for. And then we got more teaware. And I find that I do enjoy certain teaware and certain vessels for different types of tea. For instance, I like to use this cup / steeper for Dragonwell, and it's kind of like an earthenware cup. So I like to use this one specifically for Dragonwell, and it even has a dragon on it. And then I've got all my tea bag storage here, and more teapots and cups. But that's just a quick overview of my tea collection as it stands. It grows steadily over the years, and I acquire more tea than I can drink as fast, I suppose. But that's great. I love getting more teas, getting new teas, and experiencing new brews and all of that. It's definitely another hobby and interest that pairs well with gardening, because we've set up the herb bed out there where one of my focuses has been trying to cultivate herbs that are going to not only be good for culinary uses, but be good for adding to teas or making teas from. We have 20 odd varieties of mint that make good tea in and of themselves. And then we have the tea plants as well that one day will be able to harvest a bunch of leaves from and make our own tea. And that'll be another learning curve and process, because there's different ways to dry and prepare tea leaves, And depending on the method used, it's going to be a different tea. Like black tea is black tea because of the way it's dried and prepared. Similarly for, white tea, oolong, green tea, etc., etc. It's all in the way the leaves are prepared. And some of it is based on the tea region, like Assam tea, one of my favorites that I mentioned, comes from the Assam region. So I'm going to, at some point, make my own homegrown tea, and that'll be great. It's going to be another fulfilling aspect of gardening for me, I think. And I can't wait for these to get large enough that I feel comfortable plucking all their leaves from. But yeah, those are some ramblings about my tea collection and where I'd like to go with it in terms of gardening.